Welcome to another episode of the Save Yourself podcast. We are so lucky today. We have Dr. Vivek Lal, and we're going to go super deep into the gut-brain axis, the gut x-axis. If you don't know what that is, you will learn what it is. And we're going to be talking about what you can do to support your gut health in general and improve your microbiome in general. So I'm super excited to have him. If you haven't yet signed up for the Amy MD Network, you should do that. That is the live interactive platform that we're starting very, very soon. And everyone who's on there gets to be a part of this small group, get to answer your questions. Make sure you check out the chai protein. That's something that's been super, super popular. And I'm excited to show you the new branding and the new packaging on that. And we'll get into the show. So before I start, I wanted to give you a little bit of a background on who Dr. Lal is. So Dr. Vivek Lal is a physician scientist, innovator, and entrepreneur based in the U.S. He is a professor and director of innovation at the Matrix Hearsing Institute of Biomedical Innovation at the University of Alabama at Birmingham. He's also the founder of BioStack Ventures in Boston and Birmingham. It's a venture studio behind various healthcare companies. That's cool. I would love to hear more about that too. Dr. Lal is the founder and CEO of Resbiotic Nutrition, a company that makes science-backed supplements for chronic health struggles, utilizing the power of the microbiome science and the gut x-axis. He's a founder of Alveolus Bio, a platform biotech company that has FDA-approved pulmonary drug development, and Able Biolabs, which is an early-stage CRO for nutraceuticals and drug development. You are a busy person. Okay, so after med school and residency, he did his fellowship in neonatal and perinatal medicine and research fellowship in pulmonary and vascular biology at the University of Texas at Southwestern. And I mean, the bio goes on and on and on about, but he has over 100 peer-reviewed research manuscripts, abstracts. I love that you have so much science behind what you do, because a lot of the people that listen or watch this, by the way, they're listening or watching, they're really into the science and they're really into doing things that are going to make a difference, because I think we hear a lot of mixed messages on the internet about what we should be doing for our health, especially gut health, because that's become super, super popular. I have talked a little bit about the microbiome, but I would love to hear how you got interested in it.
Absolutely. First of all, thank you, Dr. Shah, for inviting me on your podcast. Science is something which is the foundation of health and wellness, right? Over the years in the supplement consumer industry, people have been fed snake oil, as you have pointed towards, right, in your previous
especially when it comes to gut health. That's
absolutely
a huge area.
Absolutely. Yeah. And my background is physician, scientist. As a physician, I was never into consumer products or supplements in the past. But over the years, I realized that there is huge opportunity to try to scientify the consumer industry or supplement industry and bring some science into it.
Yeah.
So we used our drug development background to essentially formulate products which are science-backed and has the rigor like drug development, right? Like the preclinical work, the clinical trials, etc., to give something to the consumers which can not only be sold by marketing, but it actually affects their health in the long term, right? So the problem with the consumer industry right now is there's a lot of things on the shelves which are sold by pure marketing tricks, right? But they don't have great lifetime value because the consumers get tired of.
And they're like, they're on to the next thing.
Exactly.
If it's something that's not actually making a difference in their health, they're just basically on to the next thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And microbiome, I had research background in microbiome and ran the microbiome lab. So for several years, we have been studying the microbiome. We have almost 10 times or more the number of bacterial cells in the body than human cells, right? So I always joke that we're nothing but a bunch of bacteria.
Yeah.
So how do these trillions of microbial cells interact with the host or human cells to create health and wellness and modulate disease processes? So that is what we are trying to address with Resbiotic Nutrition and some of the other ventures we have.
Yeah, I think that's the big thing that people don't understand, that the bacteria and other organisms, but really mostly bacteria, they are speaking. I guess that's how I like to think of it, because communicating with the rest of your body. And we talk a lot about the brain because it's very easy to understand. They're connected. They're connected in various ways through the nervous system, through the immune system, through various channels. So what you eat influences your gut microbiome, and that in turn influences your brain. And I think that concept has been very well, yeah, and now people understand that. But you're talking about the communication that has with the entire body. So tell us about this gut x-axis.
Absolutely. When the NIH came up with the Human Microbiome Project, I think it was late 2000s, lung was not an organ. People understood that science has busted several myths, right? Like that culture is not sterile, and there is something called the microbiome, but people did not understand which organs have a microbiome or which organs could be affected by a microbiome. So our labs was one of the first which identified the lung microbiome, that there is a lung microbiome.
You think of the lung as so sterile.
Absolutely. And that's what people thought about blood. That's what
Yeah.
people thought, that cultures are the gold standard.
Yeah.
But now with 16S and other things, we found that there's tons of other bacteria and other organisms everywhere, right? So science has busted several myths, and this was one such myth, that lungs were sterile and lungs had a microbiome. How does this affect lung health, etc.? And the next concept, as you mentioned, was food as medicine, right? Like what we eat modulates the microbiome, and how does it affect different parts of the body? In algebra, we used to call any unknown as an x, right? So that's where the gut x-axis concept came from. I certainly believe that any unknown in the body, like the x, could be communicated through the gut x-axis. If you modulate what you eat, if you modulate the microbiome in your gut, you could potentially affect different parts of the body. How does this happen? So our gut is the highly active immune organ of the body, right? Trillions of bacteria, trillions of cells, which are all connected to blood vessels and lymphatics. The blood and the lymphatics flows through the gut, through different parts of the body. So whatever metabolites or bioactives are created and absorbed in the blood does reach different parts of the body. So you could potentially modulate different parts of the body by modulating what gets absorbed from the gut, goes to the blood or the lymphatics and reaches different parts of the body. That is the gut x-axis.
Yeah, and I think what people need to understand is that there's not just one thing that the gut is doing. It's not just communicating with your brain, or it's not just communicating with your own gut. These bacteria are communicating with your entire body. So you're talking about the lungs specifically, but also like all the different organs and even the blood.
Absolutely.
I mean, we always think of blood, like if there's bacteria growing in the blood, that means you're very sick, right?
Yeah, and people have identified that there could be bacteria in the blood, which we just don't identify and which could be cleared, right, by our immune system without us identifying. It's just when there is growth of pathogenic bacteria or growth of a disproportionate growth of bacteria, that's when you identify, and that's when you can get sick, right? So these microbes have a potential of making you sick. But similarly, if you balance them in the right way, they have the potential of making you better, right?
But so I think where I didn't understand is I used to think that the gut bacteria would make bioactives like short chain fatty acids or signals, but it wasn't clear to me that they were traveling themselves to these different organs. And so what you're saying is they're actually traveling to different parts of the body.
So most of it is the metabolites, as you mentioned, but some of them do travel also. Again, the science is pretty nascent in that, right? So people are trying to identify how does the bacteria travel through the blood. There might be a minuscule amount of them. There might be just the bacterial DNA or the signature, right? Not just live bacteria. But does that create an effect at the end organ? It is all up in the air. We are still studying all of that. But the metabolites do transfer, right? Just by the metabolites going to the different organs, the inflammation in a different organ could be affected. Like in the lungs, right? The gut-lung axis. We started with the gut-lung axis. We have been studying the inflammation in the lung for years. We have published in major journals that peptides such as acetyl-PGP, metalloproteinases. These are all inflammatory things which increase the inflammation or neutrophilic inflammation in the lungs. And historically, it has been believed that things like steroids, etc., downregulate these pathways.
Yeah.
And now we identified these specific probiotic bacteria could downregulate these pathways by decreasing it in the systemic circulation, right? So almost steroid-like effect. So that's the gut-lung axis,
Amazing.
right?
And if you could not use as many steroids on people, especially with lung issues or any issues really, that would be something that's very, very useful.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. And that, we have been working on our drug development side, we have been working on FDA-approved products for inhaled biotherapeutics, which could potentially one day replace steroids. But again,
Wow.
we are talking about consumer products. How can we take something on a daily basis
Yeah.
which does reduce your inflammation in the body, including the inflammation in the lungs, right?
I think this is so fascinating because when you talk to me about this science, it really was, and I talk about gut health and nutrition all day long. And so for the person who's listening or watching this, they're probably hearing this for the first time. And so what you're saying, and I just want to make it clear that something that you're eating, including healthy foods, probiotics, can modulate your gut in such a way that it could send anti-inflammatory signals to the lung and other places.
Other places, absolutely. And we have demonstrated it not once, but multiple times. Others have now identified it after we started doing it. There is an innate connection between your gut and other organs, such as lungs, and modulating your gut microbiome and modulating your gut health does affect the health of different organs. And that is now a scientific fact.
So if you are trying to improve your lung health, and I know I talked to you about this when I first talked to you. So who are the people who should care about the gut-lung axis, for example?
That's a great question, Dr. Shah. So, we have now understood the concept of the food as medicine concept, right? But remember, we eat 3 times a day.
Mm-hmm.
We breathe 30 times a minute.
Yeah.
So what we breathe in is important. Why is that? Two similar looking people, one could get COVID and end up in ICU, and the other one could be walking around totally healthy just with a cold, right? So you're innately susceptible or resistant to that second hit in your lungs.
Yeah.
Even if we look perfectly healthy, your lungs could be either susceptible or resistant to a second hit.
Yeah.
It could be a virus, it could
Yeah.
be smoking, it could be athletic performance,
Mhm.
it could be what you inhale as forest fire or environmental pollution. So in general, anyone who breathes could benefit from the gut-lung axis,
Yeah.
right? But specifically speaking, people who have chronic inflammation in the lung could benefit from modulating the gut-lung axis. People who live in polluted areas or inhale the pollutants all the time could benefit from the gut-lung axis. People who have, toxic things going into the lungs, like people who maybe smoke or, smoke weed, could benefit from the gut-lung axis modulation. And anyone who wants to improve their lung function, like athletes or, active people, could benefit from the gut-lung axis modulation.
So 2 questions come from that. I have a son who is an athlete. He's 17. He just turned 17. His birthday was this weekend. And I talked to him about this, and he loved this idea of improving his lung function because he plays volleyball. And he was like, tell me, and I'm not going to ask you this, what probiotic strains, what are the things that he could be eating, and tell us more about the Resbiotic.
Absolutely. So probiotic strains, there are several probiotic strains on the market, as we know. None of them have been studied for specifically the gut-lung axis. What we're talking about is an era of precision probiotics or precision strains which target specific axis of the body, like the gut-lung axis. So at Resbiotic, we have been studying this for the last 10 years. We came up with specific proprietary strains which downregulate this inflammatory cascade, that is the MMP9 inflammatory cascade, etc., and improve the small chain fatty acids. And these are lactobacilli-based strains, which we have formulated into a product called Resbiotic Lung Support, and we have launched a couple of years ago to great reception from the consumers.
It's like available in regular stores. Like if people are watching, they want to try it out. Where is it available?
So it's available on resbiotic.com. That is resbiotic.com. It's on Amazon. It's on GNC stores nationwide. Soon to be in a couple of other major retailers nationwide. Yeah.
Oh, great. So if say they want to start eating to support their gut lung axis, what are the things that they should be eating? Is it probiotic foods, fermented foods?
That's a great question. So fermented food or anything which enriches the microbiome of the gut, right? So we talk about a concept of prebiotic, probiotic, and postbiotic. So even prebiotic, so nutritious fiber, nutritious, green leafy vegetables, etc. Vitamins, all of these things could function as prebiotic for enrichment of the gut microbiome. A healthy microbiome, which is diverse, does downregulate inflammation across the body, right? So a healthy diet, exercise has been shown to enrich your microbiome diversity and improve your
I think that part is so interesting because people always ask me, like, I didn't know that exercise can improve gut bacterial diversity and number. And it's because, and they create all these short chain fatty acids. When you exercise, the gut bacteria get really happy and they dance and they create these short chain fatty acids. And then they go all over the body, including the lung, brain, everywhere to lower inflammation. And in the same realm, you're saying that eating certain foods and having certain probiotic strains can do that too.
Absolutely. As I said, this field is just 20 years old.
Yeah.
Right? So people are still studying how does this all happen. But what we know is every cell of the body is connected.
Yeah.
When we exercise, there are several hormones produced, there are several signals acting, which somehow increase the diversity of the microbiome, which somehow release probably innate prebiotic material, which enriches the microbiome, right?
Yeah.
And that leads to a microbial cell and host cell interaction in a way that improves your health. Not everything is totally understood, but what we know is at the end, it does affect your inflammation of the body. It improves your, health overall.
So what did your research show about, I think you have a bunch, but let's start with the gut-lung axis, and then we can also go into the metabolic gut health piece.
Yeah. So the gut-lung axis, as I said, the first finding was that there is a lung microbiome.
Yeah,
that was the biggest finding. And then we started studying how does the gut microbiome affect your lung inflammation. So in general, what happens is if you change the gut microbiome by introducing specific bacteria which downregulate the signaling of MMP9, metalloproteinases, which are inflammatory markers for the lungs, it does help your lung health. And then if you improve the small chain fatty acids of the body through modulating these bacteria, it improves the lung health. How does this happen, right? So first we started doing some in vitro experiments. In vitro meaning we take petri dishes and put some lung cells, right, into that, human lung cells, and see what is downregulated and what is upregulated at a molecular level. And we saw consistently that these bacteria, like steroid, downregulate the inflammatory markers. The next was we took those findings into animal models, right? Like drug development process. We did some gain of function and loss of function experiment. We would gain of function meaning essentially we improve the lung health by introducing these specific bacteria. Loss of function, if I take those bacteria away, the lungs do suffer. Not only the structure of the lungs, but inflammatory markers also. They look worse when we do. So these are called gain of function, loss of function experiments, which we do in drug development to prove causality, essentially. Then we started doing some clinical trials, and we have done clinical trials in healthy population, smokers, and in deceased population.
So the way that people often get a medication, drugs like approved in the U.S., but you decided to take this straight to consumer. And why was that?
So that's a great question. Honestly, being a physician and scientist and an ardent academician, supplement or consumer industry was not in my radar 10 years ago when I started all of this. We started with drug development, but soon realized that there is a huge opportunity because 60% of the adult population in the US anyways take supplements, right?
I think it's much more
Much
than
more
that
than
at
that.
this point. Yeah.
Yeah, those are the numbers we had.
Yeah.
And that's almost like, 6 out of 10 people or
Mhm.
more take
Yeah.
something. And everything out there is not scientific and not studied. Right?
Exactly.
So just going the drug route doesn't solve that issue. People
Mhm.
will still keep taking it.
Yeah.
So why not take this opportunity and try to scientifize some of the consumer industry? Of course, you don't have to make disease claims. We have to be in the regulatory boundaries,
Yeah.
but at least give them something which is better than what they currently have. We've made the world's first lung probiotic, which didn't exist,
Yeah.
right? Probiotics were all about gut health,
Yeah.
but we are moving beyond that. Our
That's so
bodies
cool.
are complex, right? Our bodies
Well-
are not just one size fits all.
And this is what's exciting to me is like you just opened up a whole new world of what the gut modulating the gut can do for our bodies. So what are the other things? I know you're working on other things, but I'd love to hear some of the things that are kind of out or close to being out that
Absolutely.
extend on
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. So Resbiotic comes from restoration biotic. Our vision is how do we restore health, especially for people who have chronic struggles, whether it is young people or old people. We started with the gut lung axis. Similarly, we went on to the gut metabolic axis now. We launched another product called Beet, where we are using prebiotics and beets and vitamin B12 for clean energy boost by modulating a microbiome. In addition, we are going after uh, after the metabolic health struggles that people have by launching a postbiotic GLP-1 product by the end of this year.
Great. So the Beet product, and I've tried this one. It is because you sent it for the retreat. We just had anyone who's come to the retreat already has a sample of the Beet and the Resbiotic. But I've heard of beet juice, pre-performance, but this is a powder. So what's different about this?
Absolutely. So we did not have anything on the market which actually improves your gut health through a prebiotic fiber. So we used a prebiotic fiber which enriches the Akkermansia of your body and bifidobacteria.
Yeah.
So Akkermansia and bifidobacteria, in addition to lactobacilli, are the three main beneficial bacteria. So many people take our Resbi lung support as a lactobacilli probiotic and enrich the Akkermansia and the bifidobacteria through the pre-beet prebiotic. So we combined this prebiotic with beet powder and saw improvement in nitric oxide. We saw improvement in Akkermansia. We saw improvement in bifidobacteria. And then we added some methylcobalamin vitamin B12 for that instant energy boost component.
That's so interesting. You have so many things that you're working on. I mean, when I was reading your bio, you have different companies and different. So tell us a little bit more about you and what you're working on, what you're excited about.
Absolutely. Again, like many of us doctors, I went into med school to make a difference, right? Soon realized that unless I do research, I can't make a widespread difference. So I wanted to do that. So entered research. While being at the peak of my academic research career, I soon realized that 95% of the research that people do does not reach back to the consumers. NIH pays all these millions of dollars of grants, which end up in the academic system for grants and promotions and citations and papers, which do not reach back to the consumer. But so I had to ask the question, am I making impact that way? So that's when I realized that you have to take things in your own hands and not only do the research, but use that background to innovate and actually commercialize. People equate commercialization with money. That is not the truth. Commercialization is to get it to the consumer, right? So unless you commercialize and innovate and bring it back to the consumer, how are you making impact? So that's when I decided, not just physician, not just a scientist, but a physician, scientist, entrepreneur, to actually take our findings from the bench to the bedside and complete the whole circle.
Did you get pushback from that?
Absolutely, right? So anything disruptive or innovative in the world will have a lot of pushback. Because I was charting a new way, no one had done it. But you have to be true to yourself. You have to be satisfied in what you do. And for me, I didn't want to spend the next 20 years of my life just doing research to please someone else. I wanted to do research to make an impact. So yes, there was pushback because it's not the traditional way, but that's fine.
Yeah.
As long as it's changing the lives of people, that is more that is the highest level of satisfaction I get when I get calls from these customers that our lives have changed.
Yeah. So when I first started to do blogging, because 10 years ago, that's how people, got information is from blogs. I would do blogging, and a lot of my physician colleagues would say, like, what are you doing? If you are bored, why don't you have another clinic or do more stuff? And it was really hard for them to understand why I would want to do that. And
Absolutely.
I kind of even I regret saying it like this, but I used to say, oh, it's like a hobby, just like you have, woodworking, or someone plays golf or whatever, it was my hobby. And then I quickly realized that it was more than a hobby. And like 10 years from that point, I realized now there's tons of doctors coming online, writing books, doing straight to consumer, and it's just normal. And I think and that's how it's going to be, I think, for you too.
It is, right? And I consider myself an academic entrepreneur, right? You're absolutely right. There's a lot of people who question, what are you trying to do here?
Yeah.
But what we're trying to do is we're trying to break the status quo. We're trying to do something which we believe in, and we're trying to make an impact, right?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I had to keep, my academic credentials pretty high, and you were essentially doing 2 or 3 jobs.
Yeah.
I'm still doing it, right?
Yeah. So you're still running a lab.
I'm still running a lab because I am an academician at heart, right? I like the rigor. I like the good part of academics, but at the same time, I want to bridge that industry, those things from the industry which we should accept in academics. So it's an academic entrepreneurship kind of lifestyle I want.
I know. I mean, I feel your struggle because just so a lot of times when I talk about, say, microbiome, or I talk about a vitamin like magnesium, for example, the first question is always, what magnesium, what brand? And then if you end up recommending a brand, say probiotic, magnesium, vitamin D, then the next thing is, oh, you're just a paid off, blah, 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 blah. And it's such a catch-22 because I always say to people, like, I have recommendations of things I use, but I can't tell you what to use because I do understand, yes, you don't want someone who's, paid off by multiple companies and commercializing their knowledge. And I'm sure you get that too.
Absolutely, right? And that is unfortunately a situation created by all these multinationals putting out snake oil products, right? Because they had a ton of money, so they keep doing these kind of things. But I think people are seeing through it now.
Yeah.
People do realize the value of true science, and people see the long-term game here. So I think people are seeing through this.
I agree. And I think wellness has become so mainstream now that, I never took in med school, I took 0 vitamins.
Absolutely.
Because we're basically taught that it's all snake oil and that, everything should be from food or whatever, which I still think primary from food. But I quickly realized that that was not the case, that there were certain things that I could do to supplement my diet that would help me. I kind of was like thinking, why did they really, really sway us against the supplement industry? And like prescription medications were super mainstream and it was fine to do that. But if you did anything outside of that, that was really looked down upon.
It's still looked down upon. I used to believe 100% in evidence-based medicine, but now I've come to realize that there's a lot of evidence which has not been created. It exists.
I mean, you are someone who lives in that world. So you should be the one who can actually say something about that.
So I think the way to change that thinking is create the evidence for the people, for the things we think work, right? Yeah. And there is a way to do that. And that's what we're trying to do now. Yeah. I think evidence-based natural product industry is the future. Just that the evidence doesn't exist today doesn't mean it doesn't work.
Yeah.
The evidence doesn't exist today.
Can you share with us some of the evidence for some of your research, or is that something that's not?
Yeah, and some of which I could talk about right now is like the lung product, right? Like we are the general problem with the natural product industry is these things take a lot of money. Doing the preclinical work, doing the animal work, doing the clinical trials, etc. And then these companies don't get the return of investment on that, right?
Yeah.
So that's why people don't do it. They cut
Yeah.
corners. We were fortunate that we had the drug development background.
Yeah.
We were fortunate that we had these labs which could be, used for animal work, for in vitro work, etc. And then we had the connection in the clinical trial work. So we just used it in a way that it could be cost effective, but at the same time not cut corners on the research side. So that's the model or the platform we have created, that how do we use drug development level rigor in a cost effective manner to create natural products which could potentially have the rigor people want to see, right?
So what if, hypothetical situation, like someone is an athlete, they don't know or think that they have lung inflammation, they have average risk factors otherwise, would they benefit from improving the gut-lung axis, and how much could they benefit from it?
Absolutely. So again, the short answer is yes, they will benefit.
Okay.
But the real way to test that would be doing in vitro studies on specific athlete-related, cells, etc.,
Yeah.
and then doing a double-blind, placebo-controlled clinical trial on athletes on this.
Yeah.
Right. So that is the most rigorous
The gold
scientific way
standard,
of
yeah.
gold standard way of testing that. But in general, lung functions improve from the baseline. Okay, so that does tell you
Interesting.
that the lung function, lung
So
capacity.
like someone who wants to go to Olympics or wants to, really up-level their athletics, who is doing everything in their power, they should consider improving their lung function, because that could, in a lot of the sports, I think pretty much every sport, that could actually improve their performance.
I think so. Again, I can't claim on record because we have not done the double-blind placebo-controlled trial for that Olympian.
Yeah,
but
that would be
going
the
by
thought.
physiological plausibility, yes, that would work.
So the concept, and maybe, I don't know if you could shed light on this, but we talk a lot about these conceptual studies and these case reports of people getting a fecal transplant from an athlete or from someone who has specific, athletic goals or whatever. And there's data that would suggest that if you transplant a microbiome from someone who's an elite athlete to someone who is not, that you could actually improve their athletic performance in multiple different ways. Is that something that you have seen or have thoughts about?
So microbiome science is not that simple, is what I've understood. Yes, there have been, trials on fecal transplant, etc. Some of these big drug development trials have not yielded the results they were hoping for. And I think part of the reason is people have not studied individual mechanistic signaling of what exactly happens. Just merely saying that some athletes, fecal microbiota will improve the function in someone else is simplifying it,
I mean, there's
too
a company,
much.
I think, already that does that, right?
There are companies which have done that. There are companies which have failed in that.
Yeah.
There are companies which are still trying to do it. But I think the crux of the matter would be, it's not just the bacteria, it's the host also.
Yeah.
How does that bacteria react with that host?
Yeah.
It's much more complex than just saying that a bunch of microbe from someone would just create the same thing there, right?
Yeah.
So it's a microbial host interaction which essentially matters. Could it benefit it by specific one or two bacteria? It's possible, but it's far more complex than just doing a fecal transplant, is my opinion on this.
Interesting. Because fecal transplants are banned in the U.S. except for severe C. diff, recurrent C. diff.
Yeah, and
Do you think
it's for a reason. It's for a reason, right?
Yeah,
because they did not see the results they were hoping for. It's just simplifying it too much.
You're right. The host matters. If you're a host that can't keep that bacteria alive or healthy or whatever it is, the interactions, then it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. And if it was that simple, everyone would become an athlete, right?
Yeah, I mean, exactly. Or really motivated at work, or increase their IQ, or all the different things that you can think of that could happen.
Yeah. So I think the microbiome therapeutics or microbiome consumer supplementation is a thing of past. It's the future is about precision microbiome supplementation or precision therapeutics. It's essentially personalizing the care for that kind of disease population or that kind of persona, if you would.
Why isn't I noticed that your product is not refrigerated? I thought probiotics in general need to be refrigerated.
Absolutely. And we initially started with shipping out refrigerated until we got the stability studies. So quality was extremely important for us. We did third-party stability studies and
So it's
essentially
third-party tested.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
third-party tested, and we have 2 year stability study that nothing happens in room temperature. So you have to do these stability studies to make sure the CFU counts do not come down below the label claim at certain time points, right? In room temperature, in refrigerated conditions, and in very hot conditions also. So we did that and then found out, and then claimed that it is shelf stable. Many of these probiotics are not shelf stable because of water activity in the thing, which destabilizes and essentially kills the bacteria. Our water activity, we have a robust pre-manufacturing process where we bring down the water activity of the formulation to a certain level that it becomes more stable.
How did you learn all this? Because I know as a physician, you learn nothing about even creating products or business in general. Like, how did you get into all of this?
Yeah, I did not know anything.
Yeah,
I
like when
did
you're talking
not
about
know.
stability, and I was like, I barely know that. And I have products and I've worked in this industry for a while now, but I know how hard it was for me and I know how hard it is for you. I mean, you are creating things that are so outside the box.
Yes, it was very difficult. From the business perspective, I had done some business in the past, which taught me what business or PNL or EBITDA meant. I did not even know that.
Did you take classes or you did some kind of?
I considered doing MBA stuff,
Yeah.
but we had founded a urgent care company,
Okay,
and
so you knew.
which I sat on the board, and
Yeah.
I learned from really smart people there,
Yeah.
and I realized that learning on the job is probably much better than just getting a degree because
Yeah.
you eventually have to do that. So that's where I learned all the business from. Then I, did an executive program at MIT in drug and device development, which
helped you.
did give me some theoretical knowledge about things.
Do you have any drug, like pharmaceuticals that you have helped with?
Yeah, so we have a drug development company called Alveolus Bio, where we develop inhaled therapeutics. It's an early stage therapeutics development company based out of Boston and Birmingham, Alabama. And we make either inhaled LBPs or inhaled small molecules for chronic lung inflammation. We have like 4 programs going on for different. My vision is how do we actually create air as medicine, where what you inhale can decrease your inflammation in diseased population as a drug.
That's really cool because there's so many people who use these inhalers for various things, asthma, whatever, but COPD, but then they're not getting the results that they need. And so then they have to go to steroids or other therapeutics.
Yeah, there's nothing except steroids there.
Yeah.
And, those steroids have side effects.
Yeah. So this is early phase, not yet available, obviously.
Yeah, we are hoping to go into phase 1B clinical trials, at least for one of the assets in 2025.
That's so interesting. So that's something that's coming down the pipeline. Now, you mentioned something else about the GLP-1 probiotics. Tell us more about what that is and how people can naturally kind of boost their GLP-1 levels. Obviously, everyone's so interested in GLP-1 right now because of all the Ozempics and the semaglutide type medications. And so it's kind of become the spotlight these days. So tell us more about that.
It has become a spotlight. And honestly, I really admire the GLP-1 drug makers because that has changed lives for several people in the US. And I do not think any supplementation would be as good as a drug. But there is a subgroup of people who want natural solutions. There is a subgroup of people who want to take natural solutions while taking GLP-1 drugs. There are side effects for GLP-1 drugs, and they are being increasingly recognized now. So we're trying to address that population who want some natural ways of boosting their GLP-1. And GLP-1, has been made famous by the Ozempics of the world, but it has been in our world, right?
Yeah, I mean,
glucagon-like peptide.
It's so weird. I was like, how is there so much attention on something we barely even cared about
Cared
before?
about, right? So it's been around the block, and we're just trying to create products which could naturally boost this. By no way we're trying to claim that it'll be like the GLP-1
Natural
drug,
Ozempic that
natural
everybody,
Ozempic, which people are
everybody's
going
trying to
after.
say that with like
Yeah,
berberine and all this.
exactly. I don't think those claims are
Yeah.
valid, right? We just want to create things which could give a natural option of incorporating in your daily life.
That's really cool. I mean, we could talk about this all day. Honestly, I'm really, really thankful for your time. And I know you're out the door, out back to Birmingham today.
No, I'm in
oh.
Minnesota. There's the FNCE meeting where,
What does that stand for?
It's Food and Nutritional Conference
Okay.
of the American Academy of Registered Dietitians.
That's cool.
Don't quote me on that, but I remember
Something
that.
like that.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
I am so thankful for your time because I think the reason why I wanted you on is I think a lot of people have been asking about what is, probiotics, what is the gut axis, and this whole concept of the gut x-axis. That is something that I think everybody should know about because I don't think most people realize that there's a gut axis outside of the gut-brain axis.
Absolutely. And this is new science, which people should read more about. And by no way means I'm saying that only I'm talking about it.
Yeah.
The whole world is talking about it. And I think the consumers need to be educated more. It's extremely difficult to teach people who are already brainwashed by these multinationals who have fed snake oil to them for years,
but
right?
I think the people that are watching and listening to this, these are your people because we want to know the science behind. We want to know why this could be better than something that we're already doing. We want to know what foods and activities we should be doing to support our gut microbiome. So I think people are smarter now. Like we're not just taking things off the shelf and
absolutely. I think people are getting smarter by the day, and I think we all need to make a concerted effort to try to scientify the consumer industry.
Okay, so where can people find more about you, the products, your science, all of that?
I think resbiotic.com, that is resbiotic.com. Resbiotic.com is our website. That's where we launch our products. In addition, our products are available on Amazon.com. It's also available on Walmart.com, GNC stores nationwide.
Is it Walmart everywhere or?
Walmart online now. We are working
wow.
on getting into the stores.
Amazing. Congratulations.
No, thank you.
And thank you so much for being on. And thanks everyone for watching. This was if you are interested in the microbiome, gut health, or improving your health in general, this was a must listen for you. So thank you so much for coming along and stay tuned for another episode of the Save Yourself podcast.